Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 218 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast, and I am calling it tentatively Frayed Around the Edges, because I really am a little bit that this weekend, as I record this on Sunday, January 26, 2025 at 2:38 p.m. My goodness, has this been the longest January in history? For some of us, it certainly has. I have not even expressed my sympathies for those of you who are currently having your life wildly disrupted by the bitter cold and snowstorms. Did I really see Florida with snow? Okay. And I am sorry because I've been so out of touch because everything is about, do we have power today? Do we have internet? Can I see patients? And is there going to be a fire in my front window today? Happily, that seems to be over for the nonce. We have pouring rain today. We had a lot of rain yesterday. The fires are still there, but they're very, very small. And I really think we have enough rain that they aren't going to go anywhere. And up on the top of the Sierra Pelona behind my home, we have snow. We actually have snow, but it's not here. Doggone it. It is about 36 degrees Fahrenheit here, which is, 2 degrees centigrade, something like that. So it's cold. It's cold, but I am toasty warm. I am in my house. We have internet. We have power. And I am really, really happy about that, let me tell you. So your comments are very welcome. You can comment on the blog at Cognitive Podcast. Don't forget the K in Cognitive, cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com, or on our group on Ravelry. And in the warm thanks department, again, I want to thank the whole community here who have been really supportive and sent wonderful comments through, social media. And basically in this group, I want to thank the people who are on the ground in the SCV, providing support for me, including the people I work with, and my group on Reddit, all of whom seem to have this tragic attraction to crocheting small animals from one company. So that's been very, very helpful. Extra call out this week to Sustainable Living, because on the blog she mentioned blue skies and said essentially, isn't it time to move over? That, the major networks of social media are kind of controlled by a small handful of people. And she said, maybe you should consider Blue Sky. And I am going there anyway. I have a presence on Blue Sky. And I'm pretty much doing it because I consider that part of my withdrawal from the internet as I age and approach retirement. That I am, of course, getting things off the cloud as much as I can, downloading digital of everything I have, including documents. I'm taking that all very seriously. So moving to Blue Sky seemed like a very normal thing for me, and I will come back to that, I think, in the blather. But thanks to Sustainable Living for pointing that out. And I think the whole debacle that went on recently with TikTok is kind of a proof of what she's saying in a sort of backhanded way, that TikTok, when they said they were going to shut it down, that was having way too much influence on the people I saw online. And I know that is my bias. Let me be upfront with that. I'm born in 1960. And so to me, the idea that we actually need any of these networks is peculiar because they didn't exist until my late 40s. And we had other means to keep in touch. And you can make those arguments about phone networks and all that, sure. But I'm going to go for a phone over social media anytime. And so, to me, it seems very odd that shutting down TikTok had that kind of strong reaction. And I have to say, Okay, I'm talking about it now. I was going to talk about it in the blather. I went over to Blue Sky because I'm just tired that Instagram and Facebook, which are the networks I use, have been increasingly full of garbage. And I feel very manipulated by their algorithms. I'm not seeing things I want to see on either one of them for the most part, unless one of you all mentions me or talks to me. Most of the time what I'm seeing there is just garbage from people I don't know and people I don't really want to follow. I don't want to build my world and my knowledge base on these social media apps. I'd rather go do news reporters that I trust. So, Blue Sky, well, I do think it's worth having contact with people. And so I am slowly moving myself over to Blue Sky. If you're following me on Instagram, you can now find me on Blue Sky. And I am Dr. Gemma, DRGEMMA, over on Blue Sky. Please come over and join me. And I will talk more about what I think I want to do on Blue Sky. And you can agree or disagree. Comments are always welcome, as I just said. In the meantime, still haven't got the information on Cognitive Fiber Retreat 11 because I don't have information, because I don't really know who and when. Well, I know when we're doing it, October 11th, 2025. But I really would like feedback from those of you who want to attend, if you want to do it at the same hotel or what you think would work. And we will just see. I know that's really more my job. Most of you are thinking, just find a retreat place, Gemma, and let's do this thing. And yeah, I agree with that. So it's up in the air. But it is October 11th, 2025. Fortunately, I have 10 months to think about this. For you old-timers, never forget the first CFR was done in 90 days. Really amazing. But in those days, I had a lot of access that I don't have now to hotel chains that were local and in a remote enough place to give us some privacy and some interesting experiences. Anyway, that is there in the show notes. On my hooks and needles, the stash toss remains at 7 in and 0 out, but that's going to be alive very shortly because I have a whole bunch of hand spun that is drying in my bedroom right now. And my rule of thumb has become I don't add it to the stash until it is washed and thwacked and finished and dried and has a label on it. And I'm about to add at least 3 to that collection, and I'm looking at, 2 more. And I have a whole bunch more to go. I've been having a really great time. I've just been spinning my brains out. This is such an easy, fast thing to do in between power surges and, power outages. And when you have no internet, but you do have power, it's a good thing to do. I'm using, an electric wheel here. I could be using my manual wheels too, but I get repetitive stress injuries in my feet when I pedal those. That's why I'm not using them. At any rate, I have been going crazy with the spinning, and I'll come back to that in a half second. But I wanted to send you a picture, there it is, of the Blue Iris Blueberry Waffle socks. They are breathtaking, if I do say so myself. I did not mean to work on these. I meant to work on the sweaters. Why am I not working on the sweaters? Why am I giving time to the socks? Because the wonderful Romule sweater is now up to its yoke, and the arms are connected to the body, and I am doing the yoke. I think I'm about 12 rows into it, and the top part of the sweater is, I think, 50 rows from where you begin the yoke, where you join the yoke. But the first 5 rows are just the solid color, the red. And you take out a few rows depending on what size you're knitting, and I will lose 2 rows to that. And there's all sorts of hiccups and doo-woppies to make it work. And they also get to be fairly short rows by the time you get up to the neckline. So I'm enjoying this. And I would say the body of the color work is more like 25 rows total. And it's just been fun to work on, as it always is. And I'm feeling really proud because the thing about color work, when you do Fair Isle, and this is really Fair Isle, it helps you track itself. So some of the rows are very daunting, like 1 red, 4 green, 6 red, 25 green, 4 white, whatever. Well, it's only 2 colors. And, you sit there and you think, how am I going to remember this to do this for 280 stitches? Well, the answer is you start to think in terms of what goes above what. So in this pattern, for example, I'm knitting the Fair Isle section from the bottom up. And you can tell right away there's hearts with curly cues on either side. And you can really tell when you're knitting across the main body of a heart versus you're on one of the curlicues, and you can orient yourself by the rows before you by looking at that. So as difficult as this must sound to the uninitiated, Fair Isle is pretty straightforward because it's easy to orient yourself in, even though it looks daunting. And then again, one of the things that happened was I realized, yes, this is the Romule sweater wherein I practice skills, wherein I learn new things. So the main thing I'm learning here is bottom up. And I have also learned that I have gotten really fearless about beginning and ending skeins of yarn. I can remember when I found that challenging. I didn't want to do stripes, blah, blah, blah. I got over the stripes things when I did the striped blue Romule sweater. I think that was 2022. And that was all stripes. And they were like 3-row stripes. And I had to do them across the arms as well as the body to line them up. And that really broke me out of my hang-ups about stripes and weaving in ends. And on this one, I just had all little bits of skeins because this originally was a top-down sweater for someone else. And so, I had cut the skeins in different places. I got down through that whole sweater and was just on the last cuff when she announced she didn't want it. And I pulled it. I'm surprised how without trauma this was. I remember thinking I was going to be so upset about this. And this has been so trauma-free, to be honest. I pulled it in one night when I just felt bored. And I wrapped up the yarn and put it back into yarn sleeves and or rolled it into balls and all that. And so I had a lot of little bits and pieces. And then I had 2 skeins that are entire, that were never taken apart, that are just in their original format with their label and all that. And so I'm thinking, okay, that's the last I want to use, because working on all the bits and pieces skeins lets me see how much I'm using of, I think I originally had 9 skeins for this. And the person I was making this for is considerably larger than me. So I would expect to use about 6 skeins on this, and then a skein of the white on the Sweetheart sweater, that is, not on the brick that I was making for the other person. And I really don't want to take apart those brand new untouched skeins. I really feel like tracking how much of this yarn I have left on my Ravelry counter will work a lot better if I just use the little bits and pieces. And so I have been, and it's gone very well. And then on top of it, there I was going across a row last night, and I came up short a stitch on the second repeat of the heart. I was just in the wrong place. I saw it right away, which is why I'm having this whole reflection on how you orient yourself by previous rows in Fair Isle. And it was really nice. I did an adjustment as I went, leaving the possibility of bringing that stitch back. And sure enough, I immediately found it when I finished the row. I put the end stoppers on my needles and went through and found right away where I had dropped a stitch. And it's nice because it's meant to be the same color all the way up through the pattern, so I can just pick it up and insert it when I go through the next row. And I thought, wow, it really hit me when I was looking at that, how far I've come, that something like this isn't upsetting at all to me, that it's just a thing I will fix as soon as I figure out where the problem is, that I can recognize the problem really quickly. So am I sitting here telling you, wow, Dr. Gemma is such a great knitter, so much better than you, you should wish you were me? No, actually what I'm telling you is if you stay with projects and you keep working at knitting, this is not rocket science. And after a while, it's going to get much more natural to you and mistakes aren't going to be as frightening. And then there was the moment where I have the stitches where the underarm of the sleeves meets the underarm of the body. Those are on holders. And I'm knitting along on the pattern, and suddenly I realize one of the holders is sitting open in my lap with no stitches on it. And again, I finished the row, went back, and picked up all the stitches. There was no damage whatsoever. I picked them up without counting. I just picked them up by looking at where stitches were on that part of the underarm. Picked them all up, then counted, had the right number. Yay! So it is really something to celebrate, that you get skills by trying to get skills, by trying to use skills, by experimenting. And certainly that's what the Romule sweater has always been for me, and the Sweetheart is no exception, let me tell you. So it feels good, and we're so getting there, which is nice, because I still need to finish Vestiary 24. Vestiary 25, I don't know if that's going to happen. I really don't. I've got a good vest collection, and I don't have any yarns right now that are screaming my name to make a vest. So we'll have to see, and I do want to finish these two, the Vestiary 24 and the Romule. And, by the way, I have the Lakeside cardigan, which I haven't touched, and I really need to just sit down and collate the yarn, find all the yarn for that, because I think I have to make like 3 more squares for it. I think I'm coming up 3 short. I'm not even sure. And that's what I mean, but I need to turn my attention back to the Lakeside. I strongly suspect I will do that when I take my summer week off, because I do plan to take a week off this summer as a vacation, assuming that we have no more exciting fire season events. 10 square bag, have not touched it, but I'm still looking at it optimistically. The quilt squares, well, I was working on 11 this morning. One of them disappeared. I have no idea where. So I'm almost finished 10 squares. I have one more seam to do on all of them, and I cannot explain where number 11 went, but it's somewhere here, I would imagine, in my study, and it will pop up. Either that or I'm going to find out I sewed 2 together, but it didn't look like I did when I was adding the last stripe today. That would keep things interesting, wouldn't it? So Dizzy Blondes, I've pretty much told you I have done so much spinning now. I finished the Morro Bay Fleece Works. Oh, I'm so happy. I don't know how many pounds of that I had, but I had a lot. And I've been working on that since 2021, apparently. I was looking back through my stash to try to figure that out. And my first hand-spun sweater, which is the Mad Skills Mammoth, I believe, that is from that stuff. And I have been adding it routinely into all my sweaters since. It's been showing up all over my sweater collection. So it was a bit odd to say, wow, it's suddenly gone. And it's happy I am to say that. One skein, the last skein as I think of it, I actually finished by adding my hand-spun Minerva fur, and I believe some of Eleanor's undercoat is in there too. There's 2 animals in there. One of them is definitely Minerva. There might be a little Baron spun in there as well. At any rate, so I have a sweater in mind for that. I'm just going to use it for a plain brick because I think that will be the collar. So there will be this sort of black and white ribbing on the collar. And then I'm looking at a neutral yoke, undyed. And then I have one of my hand spuns that is an old Be Myself that were, I think it was like Merlot or wine colors or something, going from pink to dark cranberry. And then the rest of it will be plain. That's what that one is looking like. But I also had the Mystery Creamsicle. Now, I was at a fiber event down in Orange County years ago. And I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of it. I was doing the old series of the podcast at the time and was doing my fiber retreats at the time. I remember that because I know I talked about this on the old series. And on this table, they had a pile of really coarse wool in a sort of creamsicle mix, mostly plain with a little bit of orange stripe through it. And I bought it, like 4 ounces of it for like $2 or something. It's making a nice yarn. It's actually very pretty. It is not in any of the pictures so far. I might take a picture. I have one skein plied and skeined up, and it's just ready to be finished. Maybe I'll put an unfinished picture in just to show you what it is. It's awfully pretty. It's a little coarse, but there is no reason that won't add a good 200 yards to a sweater that I don't mean to wear against my skin. A sort of outerwear sweater. It's very, very pretty. It would make a nice yoke on something, wouldn't it, Gemma? Yes, it would. So that's really nice. I am just working my way through the yarns. And the really great thing about spinning your own is when people spin, they're afraid to use what they make. That's how you start. You spin and you go, can I make good yarn? And you don't use it for anything. You just have it sitting around and you're looking at it and going, can I make good yarn? And except one person I know who immediately started selling her hand spun, which I really admire, and started doing commission hand spinning for other people, which I thought was great. I'd love to tell you her name, but I can't even remember it. She was up in the Antelope Valley. Good egg. One of the people who went paleo and kind of inspired me when I went keto. But for most of us just make yarn, and we don't know what to do with it. And, the whole process of learning how to thwack it and finish it. And, you get this thing when you finish and it's all coiled up and you think, oh, no, that's horrible. And you eventually learn, no, that's what thwacking and weighting it are for. And, it's a long process to learn this. And all through this, when I was doing this, Jasmine Knitmore, and to some extent Gigi, but I think Jasmine was the real pusher and mover on this, kept trying to do projects on her podcast, trying to encourage the listeners to go from sheep to sweater. And I kept thinking, and she kept saying to me, you should do this, you should do it. And I kept thinking, oh no, she doesn't understand how bad my hand spun is. And mine was very bad in the beginning, let me tell you, but everybody's is. That's just part of the game. And I have a very hard time learning from watching somebody do something. I had to learn by having it printed in a series of photos and weighting the book down next to me and looking at each photo and making it look right. Even the great Stashy Mama had trouble teaching me. And she got me to do park and drop spinning with a spindle because I really was determined to learn on a spindle. I've known plenty of people who didn't, who just went right to the wheel and did great. No, not me. I really wanted to learn on a spindle because I just could see the advantage of being able to carry it everywhere with you. And I thought how much fun that would be. All right. So it took me a while. Once I got it on a spindle, everything came naturally to me. But I was so afraid, I was so out of love with my first hand spun on a wheel that I actually went around, and this was when I was injured working in the prison and had time off, and I went around collecting old broken wheels, and I decided if I can't be a good spinster, what I'm going to do is learn to fix wheels. And I don't know what I was thinking. I think I just believed there would be some kind of magic process where it would all come together for me. And weirdly, that is what happened. And hence I had the short-lived podcast, Spinning Jenny, where I managed to offend so many people by doing what I thought of as this accent we used to play when we were kids. We would do these wacky accents. And then found out somebody from Arkansas wrote to me and said, how dare you mock Arkansas accents? And I thought, I actually think at that point, I don't think I've ever heard a live Arkansas accent that I knew. But I realized, yeah, okay, I sent Spinning Jenny to her just desserts and went back to cognitive and, the history from there. Okay, but at that point I started making good yarn and I still wouldn't use it. And it really took, I must have started spinning around 2010, 2009, 2008. And it took until the Mad Skills Mammoth, which I think, oh my gosh, that was around 2019. I think it was just before the quarantine, the first time I went up to Mammoth. And I'd have to look that up on Ravelry, actually. But, you get the idea, somewhere between 2019 and 2021 before I actually made a sweater. And it was because I decided to get through all of my spinning stash because it was taking up too much space in my stash. And I was never going to do anything with it. And I thought I should either give this away or I'll just spin and maybe I'll give that away. And I spun it. And one day I was looking at this huge pile of it and said, that could be a sweater. And just had a wild hair and made it a sweater. And of course it worked just great. It worked just great. And that was the beginning of the end. So what I would tell you is the spinning thing, don't give up on your spinning and don't give up on the yarns you make. So now it's so totally different when I spin. When I'm spinning, the whole time I'm working on something and in my head I'm piecing together odds and ends and thinking, how would I use this in a sweater? I very rarely say, I have this machine-made stuff and I want to mix my spinning in with it. And I very rarely, sadly, look at all my fiber and say, here's how I would make a sweater out of this, and then do it from the ground up. I tend to treat them more as scrap sweaters. No love lost there. I had to laugh because I put a picture on Reddit of a wooble, and in the background I was wearing the Romule that is the blue commercial yarn with all the stripes of hand spun that are like 3 rows per stripe. And I was wearing that in the background of this picture. And my audience went crazy and said, did you make that yourself? And I thought, yeah, no big deal. That was me using up all the odds and ends of my fiber yarns. And I realized you just get so used to this. And it's just yarn in your stash. And you use it. And of course, I have oddball skeins all over the place. And I love to use me some scrap yarn when I make things. So that's how that works. And so, yes, Dizzy Blondes, we are booting along really nicely there. Oh, by the way, most of what I'm doing right now, I'm working on the electric eel 6.1. I was having significant problems with it, and we've just reached a zone of mutual agreement, and it's been going very well. Now, in the theme of this episode, I think, my strategy is turn it off. And I have to say, normally I'm talking about things I'm noticing as trends in my profession or trends in the interests of patients I'm encountering and all that. And this is certainly true, but now I have to say, this is me. This is me not handling my own life as appropriately as I would like. And I realized I've been getting progressively more down in my mood. And I keep going back to Jólabókaflóð when I was feeling really good during my Christmas vacation. Well, who doesn't feel good, Gemma, when they have a week off? Yes. But it really was remarkable what Jólabókaflóð did for me. So I keep thinking about that. And I realized yesterday I was going to take a hot bath for the first time because we had all sorts of excitement with our hot water heater. And I got in the bathtub and started looking for my reading glasses and one of my minis or my phones to read in the bathtub. And I thought, why am I doing this? I have a pile of Moomin books my husband gave me for Christmas. Why am I reading anything else? Why am I holding a device over my bathtub? Now, I've been doing this for years. Those of you who are getting twitchy when I say this and are thinking about things falling into the bathtub, I know. I have a whole protocol for handling that, but never have done it so far, touch wood. But I also thought, when did I get in that habit? When did a hot bath be an excuse to do this? And I can remember when and why. It was in the morning I get up, I work on my to-do list, and I work on the finances. And so I would do the finances and the email and all that in the tub because that let me take a hot bath while getting stuff done. It's me being an efficiency goddess. And I realized I'm kind of defeating the purpose, though, that when I get in the hot tub, I want to really relax. And so I was thinking about that and said, well, yeah, and we're all going through this. A lot of us who are very distressed by the news, particularly in this past week, we're getting so upset, and you have to be careful because social media is going to contribute because your algorithms are going to reflect your interests, and you're just going to get all this stuff continuously in your face and all that. And that's not why I knit. That's not why I podcast. That's not why I read. That's not why I go on social media. I'm the one who's always telling my patients, your social media is there for a purpose. Figure it out. Figure out what purpose you're using it for, and then use it, and don't use it for anything else. And so I realized my purpose on social media, unless I'm reading a subscription to an information source I like, but I'm not using things like Instagram or Reddit or Facebook to get the news, and yet I am. Like, I'm getting it from there, and I'm doom scrolling much more than I want to. And all that has happened is I am getting sad and unhappy and a little bit down, a little bit depressed. And so let me tell you, the strategy is just turn it off. And the TikTok thing reinforced that I began to realize all these influencers who I really like and admire were on TikTok, and they were having a huffy that they were going to lose their TikTok. And they're like, oh, I make so much money off TikTok. And I thought, but you people are respectable professionals, and you're using TikTok as an income source. I don't even know how you do that, but okay. And I thought, why? Why would you do that? If you can work a job and make a living in the real world, interacting with people in real time, why would TikTok become that important a financial source for you? And I don't want to condemn them for it. I simply don't understand, but I know this much, that I was raised in a world without this, and I had much more peace in that world than I have now. So, I'm realizing this week I really am turning things off. Now, I never went with things like when Twitter became X. I used to use Twitter to keep in touch with my local knitting group. That was its main thing. And my knitting group eventually broke up. People moved away and whatnot. And so there was no reason to be on Twitter. And when it went to X, that really settled it for me, but I was almost off it anyway. They wouldn't let me delete my account, which I find weird. I tried to, and it just refused to delete it. So I just stopped using it. Okay, it's out there, but I don't use it. So there was no reason for me to go to X. And then Threads came along. There's no reason for me to go to Threads. And I realized people are going to it because they are influencers in some way and they are using it to sell their product or whatever. Well, I'm not that. So I'm not on Threads. And now Blue Sky came along and I was going to do the exact same thing, except I looked at Blue Sky and Blue Sky's a bit different. But I'll come back to that. But right now, I will tell you in this strategy, what I'm really saying is turn it off if you're not using it appropriately. I did decide that my Facebook is for people on the other side of the country, mainly because they use it. Older people in the colleague group that I used to go to see at Sunnybank. They use it. If I had not been on it this week, I would not have gotten a major piece of news that is very important to me. But I'm also realizing that the Sunnybank group is aging out, and I will eventually turn it off. We'll turn off the Facebook. Some of my high school classes on it. That's the only reason. But if you're not using it, turn it off. There's a lot of good media out there that doesn't rely on this. And it's a sad thing because the internet is beautiful. The internet is this source of potentially unlimited good information. And unfortunately, some people have turned it into garbage and junk and porn and all that. And I think it's the inevitable flip side of the coin. But I don't say turn off all internet. I think it's very useful to go to things like Wikipedia or other information sources and look up information. But you have to be very judicious in how you use it. And if it's bringing you down, if it's exhausting you, if it's battering you with information that pretty basically you already know, turn it off. Turn it off, take a break, have a rest. Turn it off. Oh, shoot, well, I'm not running yet because of the air quality. And I'm seriously considering, now it's very cold outside. It's 36 degrees as I'm recording this, as I've said. So I have cold weather gear. But I'm definitely going to cut back on my distances until the weather warms up a bit. But I do have upcoming races, and you can see the list of them in the show notes on the Fluffy books. Well, I'm listening to the third book in the Sorcery and Society trilogy called Calling by Molly Harper, and I'm enjoying it. And I think I said this before. I don't know if Harper really means it this way, but it is easy to look at this as a sort of thoughtful reflection and response to the Harry Potter series. That she's not just saying, here's another magical school, blah, blah, blah. Because a lot of series did that. A lot of Harry Potter imitators did that. She's actually asking good questions about how this would happen in a magical world. She's looking at the Muggle issue in a very interesting way. She actually says the world is racially and gender integrated, but magic does stand in for some of those questions. How hard is she examining them? Yeah, I don't know. Hard to say. It's hard to tell if she's being sort of flippant, but it's a good series and I've been enjoying it. It doesn't hold the questions up in your face and shake them at you, but it's there and it's interesting. In my Georgette Heyer reading, I'm done Pharaoh's Daughter. I feel like I listened to one since then and I've simply forgotten which one. I'm listening to The Tollgate, and I really, really, really like this one. I didn't expect to at all, which I find kind of strange that I didn't expect to like it. I thought, okay, it's another laconic, know-it-all male hero, but it's just fun. It's like this sort of pirate story mixed in, I should say almost a smuggler story, mixed in with a romance, and it's kind of light on both, and it keeps moving in a really good way. The pace on this, I keep waiting for it to bog down in one plot or the other. And the hero is in an unlikely situation, much as in Pharaoh's Daughter when I was complaining about it. And I don't think this one would be too possible either, but she actually knows it. That Heyer, when she's writing the book, she keeps putting in jokes about the fact that he's pretending to be lower class than he is, and not too many people are fooled. And that's part of the humor of the book, is that the hero thinks he's pulling off this whole caper, and people keep seeing through him, but he's managing to preserve just enough secrecy to make it work. And it's just very charming. So I'm enjoying The Tollgate by Georgette Heyer. something I really like. I liked a lot of things this week. One, hot baths. So yes, our water heater went kaflooey. It was working, but a lever on it was stuck and it was draining endlessly hot water. I'm afraid to see what our bill is going to be for propane this month because of this. My husband fortunately caught it, and so we kept turning it off and on for about 4 days. And I realized suddenly that I hadn't had a good hot bath in weeks. So I don't know when this started becoming a problem, but the overflow fortunately was only a problem for about 4 days. And it was weird because we had hot water running out the side of the house and we couldn't get it in the bathtub in the back of the house. So I got my hot baths today and yesterday. I got them back. And I mean, I was able to fill the tub with hot water and just laze in it and relax. And I've been reading Moomin books in the tub. You'll probably hear more of them in days to come. The Moomins, I read the first book, Comet in Moomin Land. And I said, this is cute. And it has some amusing wisdom in it. And the second book, Finn Family Moomin, it's really amazing. That it's more of a story, chapter by chapter, story by story kind of format. The first book is a continuous narrative. This one, the stories are loosely strung together. But it is really interesting. And it is very, very smart. And I liked it enormously. So I've been lazing in hot bathtubs reading the Moomins. I also am looking at the return to running. And I'm not feeling well today. I've got a sore gland in my neck under my left jaw. So I'm working on that and trying to drown it out by drinking healthy liquids and taking antihistamine. And I had to use some nasal steroid today because my sinuses were swelling. That's because we have a huge cloud cover today. Yay! And all the raining. And that always plays merry havoc with my sinuses. And I hope that's all it is. But I'm hoping to get back to running. I want to let the air quality here settle down a bit. There's no question that we have had ash up here, even though the wind hasn't been blowing this direction. I'm waking up in the morning with my eyes and nose burning. So, yeah. But I'm thinking the air quality is coming back to normal. Meanwhile, I have been following Robert Reich, who was the former Secretary of Labor. He put up a very good Substack entry on what to do in the current administration. And I would recommend reading it. It's a very, very smart thing. And it's his usual thoughtfulness. He's very, very informed. He's got a very good finger on the pulse of where we're having problems, and I would recommend it. Also, I have to say on Instagram, there's these two veterans, a married couple, who are just doing a wonderful job talking about the divisiveness in America. And they are 1910, the numbers, like the year 1910, 1910.craftsman, as in craftsman style of architecture, 1910.craftsman.on.burns. And they're on Instagram, and I really recommend them. I've been enjoying them. I have to tell you, the thing is, they're very united in their stance, and they're very subtly funny and intelligent and supportive of each other. And the lady partner, I'm new to this, I haven't figured out their names yet, she does some of the best comebacks to trolls that I've ever heard. She's just amazing. So I've been enjoying 1910.craftsman.on.burns on Instagram. Put a lid on it. Well, now I'm still into cooking hot foods, putting them in the fridge, and eating them cold if we have to. However, I do have to laugh because last night my husband decided to make cream of cauliflower soup. Now, if you know the flavor of cooked cauliflower, it's kind of weak. It's not what you'd call one of the stronger flavors. It's not like broccoli. So he did this, and he put it in my turkey broth. He used the turkey broth and creamed it all and all this. And it came out, and he said the turkey broth was too strong. And I said, what? And he said, the turkey broth was too strong. And I said, what are you talking about? You spiced the turkey. I just made broth out of it. Oh, it was really great that we had broth and I didn't have to go buy any. To me, why you would buy bone broth is very confusing, but still. He said, that's really great. It's really great. But, it's just strong. And I'm looking and I'm like, okay, poultry broth is not really that strong unless you work on the spices. Well, what happened? Was it just overwhelmed? the cauliflower. Now, he used in it Trader Joe's. He used almost a pound, I think, of Trader Joe's exceptional cheddar. I don't know if it was almost a pound, actually. It didn't look like that big a piece, maybe a half pound. But I think the moral of the story is cream of cauliflower soup. You want to watch out for that strong turkey. What really was going on there, I think, is much more interesting. All my life, I've been gradually eating turkeys that have more and more unnatural ingredients, hormones and whatnot. And they don't have a lot of flavor. I have to be honest here. And when we switched over to organic raised, non-hormone fed turkeys and chickens, the difference in the flavor is striking. And what was weird was the first time we used one of those turkeys, about a year ago now at Thanksgiving, we looked at each other and said, this thing is so flavorful. And then realized this is what turkey tasted like when we were kids before they started adding all the growth hormones to commercially raised birds. And we just hadn't had it in years. And it faded out so gradually, we didn't notice it. And so why did we have strong turkey broth? We had turkey broth that's turkey flavored, as opposed to when you make broth from bones from animals that aren't organically raised, they don't have a lot of flavor, and it just fades into the background. So a warning, if you're going to use organically raised turkeys that don't have hormones and all that, watch out for that strong broth. Meanwhile, there are the tea tastings. We are on days 15 and 16, I believe. And one of you wrote in at the very beginning of Advent and said, this calendar is amazing. Yes, it is. I have to tell you, I feel like all I'm doing with every one of these is going, wow, amazing. But they really are good. This has been a great year. There have only been 2 so far that I haven't been able to drink due to things I'm allergic to. And otherwise, it's been really just fantastic. So day 15 was Cozy Tranquil Dream Herbal. And this is rose hips, orange peel, chamomile, lemongrass, spearmint. 100% yes. I could not believe how much I liked this. This is one of those ones I like 2 thumbs up. No, 4 thumbs up. No, I would drink this every morning, thumbs up. I really liked it. It had a lovely odor that to me was kind of citrus with a hint of the mint in the background. It was just enough of everything. Like the mix was so good, you could sit there and go, a little tangy, there's the rose hips. A little citrusy, there's the orange peel. There's a little lemon flavor, like the lemongrass flavor that is slightly off from lemon. You can tell there's chamomile in here. It's minty. I really like this. I liked everything about this. I thought it was such a good blend. So 2 thumbs up for Cozy Tranquil Dream Herbal from the Plum Deluxe Advent Calendar. Now the next one was one I thought, I'm not going to like this one. Vanilla Macadamia Herbal. This is honeybush tea, vanilla and macadamia nut essences. So essentially what they did was they gave you pretty much vanilla flavored honeybush tea. I'm good with that. No complaints here. It was delicious. Now, what I would say is really remarkable. This is one of those teas that has a nice body to it. It feels almost like a black tea or a red tea. And it had a fabulous scent that while you're drinking it, and you want to drink it very hot, this is not an iced tea, you're inhaling it and you're getting this warm vanilla essence. So this was just really soothing, very satisfying, nice body. But let me tell you, the scent, you betcha. And this is Vanilla Macadamia Herbal. And again, I have said it over and over again. I don't like nut flavors in my tea. Well, I'm wrong. This was really good. On to the blather. As I have now said about 15 times, I am on Blue Sky. I am Dr. Gemma, DRGEMMA. And I'm working on moving away from the other platforms. Now, on Blue Sky, I got on there and I said, when it was very, very new when I got on it, far fewer users than there are now. And I said, oh, good, a place where I can really sort through the people who follow me. I can really monitor it, blah, blah, blah. And I do. I go on there every day. I look at the people who have followed me, the new people, and I block some of them if I don't think they're on my page, as it were, or, they don't agree with my style or my opinions. It is true. Although I don't think I've had particularly problematic political people coming after me on Blue Sky, I have to say. But there have been a few people that they're just trying to be influencers for beauty or something. Yeah, I could care. So, I just block them. I go in there, I go, oh, you're following me. I look at their stuff. Nope, I don't like you, and I block them. So I'm really enjoying that. And the other thing was I thought, how political do I want to get? Because Blue Sky for me, I started reposting from other groups that I like, such as Physicians for Democracy, who I really like. I'm glad to know they're even out there. But I found my feed getting very politicized. And again, I only want so much of that. And I thought, well, that doesn't mean I'm going to dumb myself down. I want to promote things I believe in. So I do repost on my feed. I must say, too, I'm deeply enjoying the accounts of Mark Hamill and John Scalzi, the science fiction writer. Will Wheaton pops in, makes me happy. So really, when I post on Blue Sky, most of the stuff I post, outside of reposting of other content, I post my own craft stuff. And I've really enjoyed that, particularly when some craft designer, I forget who his name, he got on one of my posts and said, we need more of this on the internet. And I thought, thank you for that, Sarah. I really am glad to hear it. So Blue Sky for me has become a place where I really primarily just want to put craft stuff. And then I occasionally am reposting political stuff. I think I went a lot heavier on the politics than I probably wanted to the week before the inauguration and part of this past week. Before I said, wait, I'm just recreating what I don't want to be doing over on Instagram. Because if I thought I was spreading news to people who do not have it, are not involved with it, then I would feel good. But I don't. I feel like it's more of an echo chamber. I'm just saying the same thing back to people who follow me that they are reading too. And I don't think I need to use Blue Sky that way. I don't think it's serving any kind of unique purpose. I don't see myself as a big influencer, so that's probably part of what I'm saying. But at any rate, I go to Blue Sky for a little bit of peace, and I am working on moving myself away from the other platforms and reducing my presence there. Instagram's more of a challenge because I have used Instagram as my presence primarily for this podcast. So if you're within the sound of my voice, please consider going over to Blue Sky. And I am watching a lot of people I respect going over there and separating altogether from the Meta platforms. And I'm thinking about it. But as I said, right now on those platforms, I am in contact with people who I will not be able to find any other way. And in the meantime, the fires. Well, we had no power on Monday and Tuesday. Had its part of Wednesday, then we had none on Thursday, part of Friday, and then it started raining. And meanwhile, on Friday, my wonderful husband was able to get our water heater fixed. So suddenly, we have power, we have internet, we have rain, we have no fires, and we have hot water. I can't tell you how much easier my life is. And I'm just very wiped out this weekend. That a lot of the stress is coming home to roost about all the gypsy therapy and trying to make things happen and whatnot. Meanwhile, I continue to work on my bigger projects that I wanted to do over Romeo all weekend. And right now, it's really identifying a lot of mending. And also, I'm whizzing my way through my spinning, I would say. And I'm whizzing my way through the current 10 quilt squares. I just set up another 10, which will, let me think, when I finish these 10, I will be at 59, and the next 10 will take me to 69. So this is going very, very nicely. They're not all perfect. Some of them are quite wonky. It happens when you work in a scrappy way. And I'm really interested to see how I'm going to make this work. I have a feeling that instead of 100 of these squares, I'm going to need to make like 110, 115 to match up better made squares for the quilt. And then the other ones will become pillows or some such thing. And then there was the sad news, and this is one of the reasons I'm still on Facebook, oddly, is one of my longtime chums from the Sunnybank group, Karen, died very unexpectedly this week. And there were basically 3 reasons I went to Sunnybank based on 3 people, and 2 of them have now passed away. And I realized, yes, Sunnybank really is in my rearview mirror. I love Sunnybank, but the idea of going there and not having Karen is just a little too much. It's just a little too much and a little too sad. One of the words you hear all the time around Sunnybank is chum instead of friends, because the author who owned Sunnybank in the early 20th century, he always referred to really good friends as chums. So Karen Laudati was a chum. And my love goes out to her very, very loving husband, Joe. She had a fast and easy passing in the middle of the night in his arms. And that's about as good as it's ever going to get for any of us. But I am missing my chum. And the good news is I know that there is another Sunnybank that's perfect. And she's there right now. And she's waiting for those of us who love her and love Sunnybank in that order. And I will see you there, my chum. I will see you there. Meanwhile, you can see the community resources, the books I've used, the links to my favorite resources to buy, which I should check to see if they're all still there, my skills and techniques links, my Linktree link plus a picture of it, which it's kind of frozen right now because I haven't been running or doing anything exciting. You can find the calendar for events around the Santa Clarita Valley. And I'm looking at the Santa Clarita Valley Free Craft Exchange and thinking early February, here I come, because I'm winnowing through stuff and finding things to get rid of. And I will say that's worked really well, that I have never left anything behind at that Free Craft Exchange that I've regretted. What I do have is a lot more space in my study, and it's making me happy. And I also can see the ways that I've really reduced stash creatively. CFR 11 in 2025 is still on the schedule for October 11th, 2025. Minerva gets the last word. You can see her lying on the bed. It was very cold, so I've got three blankets on there. And Minerva is lying on top of the top one, looking at me. And her message is, I'm here for you. That things have been very difficult in this January. People keep saying, we're on January 287th, 2025. Like it is unending, in other words. Yeah, that's the way it's been. And it's been cold across most of the states. And then, of course, California's been on fire, or Southern California to be completely accurate. So it's been very challenging for us over here on our side of the pond this month. And I haven't been sending a lot of love to those of you who are out there in the cold, and I really am thinking of you and rubbing the beads for you and doing all the good things. And in the meantime, I think one of the best things you can say to anybody right now is, I'm here for you. And that's what Minerva is saying to me right there, lying on the bed, looking at me with her emerald eyes. She doesn't have green eyes, by the way. In real time, her eyes are yellowish, but she's reflecting light in that picture. So Minerva wants you all to know I am here for you. And when we're here for each other, of course, what a segue, Gemma! When we're here for each other, of course, that means we're serving the larger community. And when we serve the community, we are serving ourselves. We are all here for each other, and that protects the individuals as well. And on that happy note, everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.